Hello everybody. So this video is entitled Epic Print equals Epic Pump. Are we at the start of a risk on rally? Because we got some good news. Well, not a good news for the deficit, but we got some crazy news about the yields. And what is that news, right? That news is that the treasury is now going to be buying twice as much long and 10-year and 30-year bonds than it used to be buying. So what we're doing is that we're digging the federal deficit. We're digging the deficit to buy back the long end of the yield curve, to buy back the bonds, to make the yields go down. And if the yields go down, the market goes up. And of course, they'll say it's temporary, and it better be, because otherwise the deficit is going to grow to epic proportion. But that was the big trigger, right? And then towards the end of the day, we had crypto rally because of Trump-specific triggers. I'll get to those in a second. But you can see what happens as soon as we get a little hint that we are going to go back to a printing environment. It's just crazy. So we have Hyperliquid Strategies, which is a stock that I've talked about many times on the channel, a digital asset treasuries companies that owns Hype, right? Hyperliquid, which is the leading DEX, the leading trading platform outside of the US. And so you had PURR saying they're trying to bring them to the US and make them okay in the US. And so boom, that's enough for Hyperliquid to go up 30%. Hype itself is up 16%. At one point, Hype was up 20%. And that's right there is in a matter of, 30 minutes? Something like that. But that's not it. If you look at the news from Besant this morning about doubling the buyback of 30-year bonds, that news sent Bitcoin rallying $3,000 in, again, an hour. I mean, the pump was not even an hour. It was like 30 minutes, something like that. But that's not it, right? It didn't just send everything rallying. Of course, as I've always said, strategy cannot do well if Bitcoin is not doing well. This is like a song. This is like I'm just repeating myself at this point. Well, strategy is up 13% today. Why? Because Bitcoin is doing well. I mean, that was always the case. That was always what was going to happen. It's same for PURR, same for Hyperliquid Strategy. Is up because the underlying token is way up. But then you also have the risk on pump who's spreading. I'm sorry, I'm speaking like a Gen Z. The term is so prevalent on X that now I'm adopting the term. I'm calling it a pump. I don't know where that word came from. Anyways, if you look, it's very much crazy. You have it on Tesla up 4%. Again, nothing new on Tesla. All of the robot taxi info was still there yesterday and the day before. The only thing that has changed, and you had the semi-news on Tesla, positive news too, but that was like 1 day ago now, 2 days ago, something like that. Positive news was there 2 days ago. The only thing that has changed is the money printing. That's the only thing that has changed. And up, boom, we have Tesla up 4%, and then HIMS up 13%. Again, HIMS, some may say, bullish interview from Dudum. The interview was released yesterday during market hours. And HIMS was down yesterday quite a bit during market hours. So again, I don't think the HIMS rally has anything to do with the CNBC interview. This has all to do with the market having this dumb correlation. Money printing coming, risk on coming, and see if we're risk on, we're going to buy these stocks that are risk on. The market is putting these stocks into buckets, and they're calling these stocks risk on. But ask yourself, what's really a risk on stocks? A lot of the stocks that are down today, I'll get to that in a second, but a lot of stocks that are down today should really have been down all the time because they're riddled with debt, and they have so much debt, and they have a business model that's going nowhere. But they just happen to be in the risk-off bucket. So whenever we have bearish news on the economy or bearish news on the rates, these risk-off buckets go up and the risk-on buckets go down. The market is trading so many of these stocks like a bucket. And of course, I took HIMS as an example, I took MSTR as an example, I took Hype as an example today, Bitcoin as an example today, Tesla. I could have taken so many growth stocks that I cover on this channel that are up between 7 and 30%. Let's call it between 7 and 30%. So it's a crazy good day. Don't get me wrong. I still think these days are very tough to manage for the investor because you don't know when they're coming. And I'll rejoice today because I was whining and complaining enough on days when stocks were dropping a lot for no reason whatsoever. But I am also mindful that these stocks are moving based on the whims of Trump, Besant, and Walsh. So I can't use my old reference. People got mad in the comment section when I said that. I was call it a geriatric utterance back then. I was saying it was geriatric utterance who were moving the market. I can't say that anymore because Walsh and Besant are pretty young. But still, I mean, like if we look at what moved the market today, it was mostly Besant. And then crypto specific, that was Trump later on in the day. But it was mostly Besant who moved the market today. It's just crazy that the US is going to dig the deficit. It's gonna dig the deficit, which means we're gonna buy more short-term debt. We're gonna issue more short-term debt at a higher yield. So we're gonna issue two-year debt, 1 year debt at a much higher yield, and we're doing that to buy back debt that is technically cheaper. And so why are they doing that? Is it a political move? Is it because the midterms are coming and you want to show that the economy is not going to collapse or something like that? I don't really know. All I know is that this probably forces the hand of the Fed at some point. The Fed will have to do quantitative easing again. There is no other choice. There is no other way. Now, I've already established if they're going to call it something else, like you remember the BTFP program, they called it something else. They might call it something else, but they're going to have to do QE again. At some point, the Fed will have to go buy treasuries at some point, but they'll probably call it something else, and this will force the hand maybe of the Fed. I don't really know, but I know that M2 is going through the roof. Eurodollars is the same story. The amount of dollars out there is going through the roof, and this is good for hard assets. And what are hard assets? Hard assets are Bitcoin. Hard assets are assets like Hype. Hype, as a reminder, Hype, as Saylor calls these chains, Hype, just like Solana, by the way, Hype is a revenue chain. What is a revenue chain? It's a chain that earns fees, and what does it do with its fees? Hype is using 99% of its fees to burn the token. Solana is using 50% of its fees to burn the token. This is why I prefer Hype over Solana, because Hype is literally burning 99% of the fees, and it's a top 10 projects, a top 10 blockchain. So much trading is going on the Hype platform, OUS, outside of the US, and Trump's commentary about bringing them to be compliant is a big deal, of course, because most of the trading happens in the US. So let's talk about some of the moves today. I'm just going to do MSTR corner really quick. Of course, MSTR is one of the top stocks on the channel. On this channel, I have two top stocks. It's MSTR, it's HIMS, MSTR and HIMS. These are my two top stocks. I also like Tesla very, very much, but as you know, I don't cover Tesla too much because it's so tribal and there's only so many negative comments that I can get. So I try to hold off Tesla quite a bit. I mean, I've been disappointing in Tesla price action. Who hasn't, right? Who hasn't? Oh, and I started covering neoclouds recently. Well, not recently. I guess NBIS I covered for a while. Neoclouds are very interesting. They might be my fourth bucket, right? My fourth big play. So you have Bitcoin and strategy, and then you have Tesla, and then you have HIMS. I love HIMS very much, and then these neoclouds could earn a high spot in my top investments, or my top opinion as to what stocks are going to do. Anyways, I ramble. Let me focus on MSTR corner here. So MSTR twice the outperformance of Bitcoin. We outperformed Bitcoin twice today. This is quite outstanding. It hasn't happened in a long time. It's as though the market is waking up to the fact that 1.04 is not enough of an MNAV for a company like MSTR. Note also the fear and greed. 2 days ago, you may remember, I was complaining myself that it was sitting right below. It was sitting right below 40. It was at 39. Fear and greed stayed at 39 for like many months, and all of a sudden it jumped and it spiked to a 52 in a matter of no time. And then of course we have stretch. Keep in mind, this is a very stable credit instrument. Well, it's supposed to be a stable credit instrument. There was so much fear that led to a sell-off. But 1.3% today for stretch, I would say, is nothing to sneeze at, given how this instrument is designed to be stable. Case in point, of course, is SATA. SATA, as you can see, is close to reaching 100, and so we are close to starting the ATM back on SATA. SATA, of course, is ASST's preferred instrument, which was largely copied from Sailor, inspired from Sailor. But if you've been following SETA, you know SETA has been at 99 for the longest time. It's a slow grind up. The same for STRC. STRC has been slowly grinding up. And remember that SETA pays daily. So SETA pays its 13% yield daily. So every day we lose a few dimes every day that we go ex-dividend in the morning. So SETA in many ways is not suffering from the bi-weekly or the bi-monthly dividends in many ways, but it's nothing to sneeze at. 1.3%. I'm pretty happy to see that, actually. And here's the big question that everybody's asking: is he gonna ATM? Is there gonna be the MSTR ATM? And I am afraid to say that I think Sailor will ATM. I don't know if he ATM'd on Monday. Maybe on Monday he did, because the price action was odd, but he's going to ATM in my view, because I think he wants to bring the 5 billion USD reserve. I think he wants to bring it to 5 billion, call it 5 billion, and then stop ATMing. Unfortunately, if he ATMs at 1.04, it's not so good. The MNAV has not changed, because remember, we have some leverage in it, right? I mean, we have Bitcoin, but we also have some leverage. So even though Bitcoin went way up, the leverage stayed in the calculation, and so therefore MNAV is 1.04. And there's debates as to how you calculate MNAV, but I'm not too happy if he ATMs here. I still think he's gonna do it. I still think the actions, and this is another case in point here. Think about the actions of Sailor over the past 9 weeks. They haven't moved the stock like Bitcoin has. Bitcoin has moved the stock much more than anything Sailor did for the past 8 to 9 weeks. So that's why I say he should have done nothing. But he's signaling, and he's talking to AI, as many of you have pointed out. He's talking to AI, so maybe AI sees something that I don't see. I'm definitely not as smart as AI. So anyways, more commentary, final commentary. Moderna. Well, Merck was up to 12%, but I especially want to talk about Moderna. Fascinating to see Moderna up 181, if you include after hours, 181%. We are up 181% for Moderna, because it seems like they have a moment with their cancer vaccine showing promise in late stage trial. Now, if you've been following Cathie Wood, you know but she was expecting that. And a lot of, if you follow Peter Diamandis, if you follow a lot of the so-called futurists out there, this is not new information, that so many companies are working on that. But this is the first time the market seems to have not known that there are many biotech firms working on breakthrough therapies like that. Of course, biotech stocks move 100% on good news like that, but not at this size. Like this was a tens of billions of dollar company to begin with. So what's very impressive about the move is the move from that size of the company, from that market cap. And so this gives me pause. It makes me ask the question, first of all, how much of that move is due to the risk-on environment being back up? I think some of it is due to that. And you can see, if you look at the heat map, you can see a lot of the healthcare, a lot of the biotech is way up. Why is it way up? Because we're going risk-on. So some of that rise probably has to do with risk-on. But what has the market been doing? The market has been sleeping on these stocks. I was posting on Patreon today, a lot of these super innovative health stocks have been in a valley of despair for 5 years and a half, believe it or not. For 5 years and a half, and this is the case of Moderna. This is the case of look up all of the hot biotech stocks of 2021, early 2022, late 21. All of these stocks have been a valley of despair since. They've been sold off since, because we've been in a risk-off environment. But the pipeline has remained. And the extraordinary pipeline that I think mostly Cathie Wood has been the advocate of has remained. And now we're surprised to see these stocks go up. If we go back to a risk-on environment, I expect this to happen quite a bit. And I'll catch up. I'll call it a catching up rally. And I'll finish the video here. It's true that a lot of stocks that were left for dead were way up today. Even Apple was way, well, I guess 2% is okay. But a lot of these stocks were way up today. But if you look at the NASDAQ, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know this was such a good day for risk on if you look at the NASDAQ. That's why I don't really do indices on this channel. And I'll conclude with IREN and NBIS, the third day that I cover this rotation. And yes, this rotation is happening. Yes, IREN was, 4 to 5 times cheaper than NBIS. I need to rerun the math, but now IREN is probably only 3 times cheaper than NBIS. That delta needed to close, and it looks like it is closing. NBIS at one point today down almost 13%, and ending up down 10% today. NBIS being up today. This is the third full day in a row where we have a major delta in performance between these two stocks. And today I would argue is the biggest delta in performance. So as NBIS goes down and IREN stays roughly flat over a 3-day period, we have a valuation that's catching up because I never really understood why NBIS went up so fast. Well, I did. It's the shorts covering. That was probably a lot of a reason as to why the stock went up this much. You had a lot of shorts covering, but the valuation and today I also discussed Cypher on my Patreon, and Cypher, of course, I also find it very, very cheap. Also doing okay. I think it will rebound. I think we've had a disconnect. I think NBIS has taken a lot of money out of the neocloud room, out of the bucket of neocloud stocks. I think NBIS has taken a lot of money from the other stocks, and it looks like now that some of that money is redistributing. At least that's the best explanation I can come up with. So anyways, do I like this day? You bet I like this day. I like to see my portfolio be green, but I'm still wildly aware that this is mostly due to single decisions from single individuals. And this is the problem of this market. This is especially the problem when you have the cost of money who's decided by a handful of people. The market's become much more unpredictable. That's why I much prefer the 2010s. In the 2010s, the cost of money was zero, or essentially zero, except in 2018 when we had a teeny tiny scare. But throughout the 2010, the cost of money was zero. It was a much more healthy form of investment because you don't have to play the casino, because the problem is, we have Jackson Hole coming. How do you know what the speech of Walsh is going to be at Jackson Hole? Jackson Hole, Walsh could have a really, really bad speech. It could be super bearish, and then all of your stocks go down, and then all of our stocks are down 10% again. On the other hand, he could have a super dovish speech, and then we're up another 10%. Single people control the market much, much more than when the cost of money is at zero, because there's nothing lower than zero. So anyways, and of course, increasing the deficit like this, I believe eventually the cost of money will remain zero. The way of the future is the way of Japan, keeping the rates down, and that's just what I've always believed. That's why initially, that's why I named the channel Beat the Denominator. That was the reason. Because money printing is not going away anytime soon, and our stocks, I believe, will perform greatly in a money printing environment. Or rather, is it the currency will not perform greatly? We'll see. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.